Hey y'all, this is your girl BMORE and welcome to the Dummies Cauldron.
Hey, this is your girl BMORE, and this is your weekly transit roundup. So, this week from the 8th to the 14th, the theme is loss of innocence, coming of age, and evil and good. So, this week we will be experiencing a very intense, hard understanding about reality and what things are. Okay, now the reason why I call this the loss of innocence or coming of age by default is a loss of innocence where people have to mature and they maybe see things for what they are. There's a level of disillusionment, and one of the disillusionments that people have in coming of age is we understand what good and evil is sometimes either through our own experiences of being duped, being had, or sometimes observing evil from external forces, maybe a third party, a lot of things like that. But that is what I feel like we will be experiencing this week. Not saying I'm expecting, like the hell portal from Buffy, but I really am expecting for people to have a aha moment, and I really would like the aha moment to not be so painful for you guys. This week I want you guys to go back and listen to the Venus and Taurus video that I did about the issues with Venus and Pluto and how it can sometimes create possessiveness, control issues and stuff like that. So we get a blessing, we get things working in our favor, but the caveat is we get people being jealous, we get people, being controlling. Sometimes it's us being controlling, sometimes it's us being jealous, that we're not paying attention to, some of the beauty or the blessings we have. And this can create a lot of disappointment and disillusionment for us all. Also, this week we will be discussing Jupiter going into Cancer. So Jupiter in Cancer is its exaltation point, or where it's the most northern, and it's second. It's one of the other places outside of Sag and Pisces where Cancer is most comfortable. So outside of its homes, we also get the exaltation, and so the exaltation is Cancer. Its opposite of that is Capricorn, where it is not as strong. So let's start talking about the week. So we are going to start with June 8th. Here, Mercury and Jupiter conjunct. Now, Mercury and Jupiter is conjuncting in the sign of Gemini, but we also get some like kind of comb overs into going from Gemini into some Cancers, as you can see on the screen at the bottom in the signs of Gemini, where it's near the sun. You see how Mercury kind of goes in front of Jupiter by the end of the week, so it kind of like breezes over it because Mercury is much faster. Here, when Jupiter and Mercury conjuncts, people can be big thinkers, they're curious, they're enthusiastic. Now, you can have a lot of varied interests, but you also can be an exaggerator. So try to keep that in mind. Don't try to like do too much, okay? Like only a little bit of exaggeration, because we don't want to start rolling into lying now. It feels like you're smarter than most. You can be kind, optimistic. There's a strong verbal ability where you can have a commanding presence, but I really think you should learn some self-discipline. You don't want to start being outside of an exaggerator. You also don't want to be domineering when interacting with people. This is good for education, history, and PR. We can use this time for planning, teaching, travel, business, legal matters. You can anticipate good news. During this time, you can see the big picture while also creating very specific details. This is a good time to broaden your knowledge and gain new viewpoints, but you should be realistic. And I will also say this is a placement where I don't recommend bragging about a lot of things. I actually even feel like even a little bit before the 8th, we should watch our bragging, but I really don't encourage people to brag at this point. There's a couple of placements that I see bragging is like poorly received, and Mercury and Jupiter placements are one of them. They really don't bode well for bragging. Now, the other thing is, because Mercury deals with forms of commerce and exchanging things for one thing, like I'll trade you this if you give me that. Jupiter also deals with duty and law. And so what I see is that law or justice is for sale. Like people can do exchanges or trades off on morality, laws, husbands, teachers, gurus. Like maybe you sell a course or something like that. But we also see on the most wildest end of it, law is for sale. Duty is for sale. The principles that we hold dear is for sale. I don't know if that will help anyone, but I definitely anticipate that around June 8th, but even like a couple days prior, before it gets into an exact conjunction. Moving on to June 9th, here Mercury moves into Cancer. I won't be going through the risings for this. Mercury moves a little bit too quickly for me to do it for like all the Mercuries, but I will give a general synopsis of its behaviors and how it can impact certain zodiac signs, regardless of what planet it is. So here, Mercury in Cancer is very emotional and it's easily swayed by its senses. And so it is very easy for an argument to arouse into stubbornness. The mind is usually very much so made up and it's hard for it to go back to anything. And it's weird because it's a stubbornness, but also like a very much so impressionable. It's very much so an impressionable nature to Cancer as well. I will say here also, people are very easy to antagonize others, and so if you're a person who either struggles with started trouble in antagonizing, but also gets very irritated when dealing with annoying or antagonizing people, I would tell you to just watch out for the next couple of weeks. But Mercury is very antagonistic here, and so just keep that in mind. There's a changeableness. It's easy for you now to be impacted by your surroundings. Overall, there's a general love and kindness. There's a possibility of receiving praise or even responding well to praise. Intuition is high. This could be a good time for poetry, music. Mercury here is a good listener. Mercury is sympathetic, but not objective. It's very subjective, so it thinks from its point of view all the time, but it is empathetic, and so that may be beneficial for dealing with some people who are very stubborn. Mercury here tends to have a lot of self-pity, but it can be diplomatic. There's good business sense because Cancer is ruled by the moon, and Mercury deals with speech and intellect. It understands the behavior of the public. So it's easy to earn money, especially easy to earn money by way of water, close to water, selling products with water in it. Home and family is the focus now. Now, people with some hard aspects to this, which would be maybe the cardinal signs, will have hard aspects to this. So think Aries, Libra, Capricorn. They'll have some issues, and maybe there'll also be some issues for some other signs that have uncomfortable angles. They're not cardinal, but it's still uncomfortable. And I'll say Sag and Aquarius too, because they're not necessarily squares or oppositions, but there isn't uncomfortable angles to the charts. So it's in like the 6th and the 8th house. Okay, so here under hard aspects, you can be evasive. You might not be as honest or forthcoming. I'm not saying you will be a liar, but there is certain things about not being an exaggerator too, with Jupiter being there. So this can really blow this up. People may even go into lying, but it's not an honest placement. There could be arguments with women, arguments with the public, people trying to convince you of things, shove things down your throat. But overall, it makes good for public speaking. So just keep that in mind. On June 9th, we also have Mercury square Saturn. So this is a more traditional energy. There's a shy reservedness, but you're also a hard worker at this time. You could be very responsible and ambitious. Now, if you had any difficult childhoods or issues with the father or authority figures, insecurity, defensiveness, and paranoia, and possibly even depression can arise. I'm not saying everyone's going to have like all of these issues, but if you're a person who have some of these issues, it's kind of hard to not think about that. Also see dental issues popping up, hearing problems. Again, this is very good for business, good for politics, and good for any type of thing that requires concentration. But the problem is worries and regrets and dwelling on the past kind of bubble up. And that's mainly because Saturn deals with time, and sometimes it deals with the past. And since Mercury has a leaning toward youth and childhood, people can remember maybe some unseemly or unfun themes around their childhood. Maybe they just missed their parents, maybe it was like a difficult time that they remember. Maybe their pet died. Maybe they remember a mean teacher, whatever it could be. But we can have like memories or deep feelings that can spring up from childhood. And we can also interact with children who are kind of like going through it as well. There also can be a long to-do list. There can be mechanical problems, and we can be very overly critical at this time. I really would recommend people to turn their pessimism into acceptance and try to realistically assess challenges and just learn from the past and let go anything that is holding you back. Next, we have Venus square Pluto. So like we discussed before with Venus and Pluto, making hard aspects to one another, where we have to be mindful of what our limitations are, what our personal tastes are. We start to see a very clear indicator of the energy of Venus. Our sense of taste, any type of luck or good news is being challenged. And so here the sexuality is strong, but again, we can also see indicators of possibly like cheating or wanting to go after things that are unavailable. There could be some psychological shyness, which leads to issues in relationships. We keep everything bottled up. Our standards are high. We're very demanding. We have money problems that we haven't resolved, but we still want more money. Other people are demanding too. We're looking for ideal partnerships without learning how to compromise and really how to deal with people and be a people person. This can also be a breeding ground for jealousy, possessiveness, either by you or others. And if we are experiencing manipulation and power plays, it's best to just avoid these people altogether. This isn't a good time for high investments, high risk money deals, any of those types of things. Like, no, high risk, none of that. Use it to pay off debts and really try to delve deep into what your values are. What do you believe in? What do you hold dear? What do you feel like is true? What is your character? We also see Mercury squaring Neptune. And so it's very much so possible we can be unrealistic in our relationships. Maybe we have rose-colored glasses on. Now, this is a great time for creativity, sensitivity, being insightful, imaginative, but there's also a duplicitous nature here. Are we naive or are we cunning? Now, this can come from ourselves, where we can be either naive or cunning, and like I talked about before with Venus and Pluto, maybe we're possessive and controlling. But this also can be spurred on from other people. So we're meeting controlling people, but we're not sure if the people we're interacting with are naive. They just don't know any better. They're innocent, but they could use some more improvement, or they're really lining you up for some shenanigans. Okay. At this time, it's really easy to be distracted. We can be more absent-minded. There could be a fear of competition. Now, this is great for writing. This is great for music and dancing, painting, drama, any type of social programs. But confusion and misunderstanding really takes the reins. It's best to keep secrets and rumors to yourself, because other people can use it against you at any inopportune time. You can also use this to avoid any prying questions through intuition. Beware of deception. Only believe half of what people tell you. Not saying everyone is lying, but it's at this point it's very hard to tell who is just talking and who is being intentionally misleading. And that will bubble up as the days go on. We will start to get the veil lifted off of us. But in order for you to see who is in your life just not telling the truth, it's going to take some time. Now on June 10th, Mars makes a trine to Chiron, and so we can see healing or teaching with siblings, relatives, or friends. We can see the dissolving or processing of enemies. Why and who doesn't like me? Why don't you like me? Who doesn't like me? Maybe we get some type of redemption. Maybe we're able to get rid of obstacles and conflicts, and we're able to teach via our own experiences. Maybe we can see some of these hardships in a more logical way. We can also heal from an injury, an infection, and wound. Maybe it's the blood, maybe we can heal through homeopathy. We can do energy healing if people like that. Also, herbs can give you energy, and this can be a good time for resting and contemplation. The main theme for today on June 10th is, who am I in this world or universe? And how can I use logic and common sense and science to its best abilities? Because Mars is a planet of science and logic, and Chiron is the teacher. And so how can I best use my logical or commonsensical nature best? Next thing we see, Neptune and Saturn is conjunct. Here we have people who are good planners. It's good for business, mathematics, politics, creativity, artistic inspiration. Here we can be idealists but practical if you actually focus. This could be seen as a placement for magicians. There could be a distrust of others, and you question everything, and you want to function by your own reasoning, your own logic. At the worst, there's a divided nature. There's a mental strain. It's best to really pay attention, because there's a strong temptation to fill your time with impractical projects or all these random side quests. So really pay attention to it. Like I said, it'll be easier to see who is deceptive, but it really depends on how we're using our perception and intuition during this week. This also can be an indicator of self-doubt, disillusionment, and maybe insecurity and powerlessness, and how well we adapt. Hobbies can help. I really want you guys to try to see structure as a framework for creation and opportunity. This is really good for side businesses, but I really would tell you to watch your decisions. If it's still very hard for you to really discern what is the real from the fake, I will actually just tell you to try to be as practical and grounded as much as you can. Now, on June 11th, we have Mercury sextiling Venus. And usually in a chart, you really never really get this type of placement, because Mercury and Venus are never that far away from each other. However, in transits, sometimes we do. So here we have the social graces. People are charming, beauty. They have a lot of beauty. They're artistic, and people are open to compromise. There's a great imagination. People are fair to others, and they can cooperate with you. This is a great time to make money from public speaking or dealing with the public. If your career is in that field, this is a good time for writing, entertainment, new relationships, dealing with friendships, shopping, concerts. You're able to win support for your ideas. And this is also really positive for interviews. And this is overall positive for any type of financial endeavor. You maybe get hit or receive some positive financial news. On June 13th, we have Mercury trining Lilith. And so there could be some possibly thoughts of revenge, revolt, saying something out of spite. Maybe you're a very sarcastic person and you can say very sharp things that maybe are funny to get back at people, not in an aggressive way, but you know how people just shady, but it's funny. They're very sarcastic, quick wit. You can't really quip them. They're very witty, all of that. The other thing is that it could deal with a mysterious nature, education, childhood, and vocation, your calling. How was your childhood? How was your educational experiences? And what did you learn? What did you want to be when you grew up? What did you feel like your life calling was? And are you still doing it? Are you still trying to achieve those goals? This also can create sexy or sexual forms of communication, people traveling to have sex. This also deals with business and trade, and so sometimes it is in a sexual way too. I'm not saying y'all all are doing it, but maybe y'all get to have a hookup or something like that. Right now you are smart and attractive, and people see like what you have to say, your knowledge, your intellect is very, very much so attractive. Now the other thing is, you may have to adjust your attitude. It could be a little bit of bitchiness, and maybe we have to deal with some of those types of personalities with school, childhood. Maybe your sibling is tripping. Maybe you deal with some little cranky, ill-mannered children. Maybe people feel like their life's calling is to be kind of like cantankerous and bitchy. Now we can also get complications in technology. We can get competition. We can also get complications in communication and education, and even having issues with traveling, trying to adapt as much as possible. We can also have it where we can consciously embrace shame and rejection, and we learn acceptance, because Mercury is the planet of there's some level of like consciousness that comes to it, and so we can learn acceptance. We can also win or survive the dark night or more darker experiences, maybe by outwitting or outsmarting opponents or people who don't like us. And so this can create controversial expressions, things that will be usually taboo but is overall accepted. So this is a good time for like outsmarting people. So like I said, if you did not understand who did or did not like you, you will by towards the end of the week. It might take you some time if you're dealing with a lot of this stuff, but it takes time for that veil of innocence, the loss of innocence, understanding who likes you, who doesn't, to kind of like lift a little bit. We also have the Sun square Rahu, and so there can be conflict with authority figures, issues with father, kids, and lovers. We also see this sometimes as sickness, weak vitality. So maybe you have like low energy, colds, and flus. There could be psychic disturbances, maybe impacting the rational mind and impacting forms of consciousness. And maybe there's some type of energy that's forced into creating diseases or curing them, and maybe we can get awards for them, because the Sun gives us awards, it gives us prominence, and so maybe we're using creativity towards diseases, curing or trying to treat that, and maybe we are awarded for it. We also see this sometimes as children. Sometimes they're a little bit off, because Rahu can create disturbances of all kinds, and so sometimes the children aren't doing the best, and the Sun can rule children. There can also be collective trends. There can be conflicts with fathers, conflicts with egos and individuality, with kids, issues with the summer. They are having topics of summer coming up, and there being issues around parties and whether we are going to give people second chances. We might even see people come out and they are like award bashers. So someone is supposed to be awarded something and people are bashing it. You got an award for what exactly is kind of the thing. But again, master services, and we also see some interesting dynamics in what will be perceived as fate. On the 14th, Lilith opposes Venus. So here, Lilith is the planet of mystery and Venus is the planet of pleasure. What we get is that for some people, they might try to like get revenge on their wife, or there's some vengeance that they're expecting from the wife. The wife is rebellious because Venus is a planet that rules the wife or committed partnerships. So our committed partnerships is an issue. Venus is the planet that implies wife. So wife doesn't love you. There can be rejection from her. There can also be rejection from business partners, rejection from, people that we're committed to. We can also get rejection from love, from art, from beauty. We can be ashamed for our taste. Maybe you put something together, you decorated something, and people are like, ugh, yuck. We can also get rejection from our comforts. Maybe we try to find comfort in something and it just doesn't go to what we want. Maybe you're ashamed for it. You can be rejected for eating, makeup, however you're presenting yourself to the world. This also makes for a more mysterious, mystique type of theme, and maybe that actually makes you more popular now. And even though there's tension building up, maybe people are becoming more aware of like this mysterious kind of aura around you. There may be some issues with your sexualities, with your partners, sexual attractions. So maybe we start to fight. So maybe we find someone attractive and we are maybe irritated or like conflicted in why we like that person or if we should. And so maybe that can start up to arguments or altercations. We also have a where it's like surviving cosmetics, because Venus is a planet that rules cosmetics and Lilith is a planet surviving. So maybe someone has a thing where they have a bad experience with cosmetics, with beauty, and it kind of like maybe they're allergic to it, something crazy, and they have to like try to get through it. We are more popular now, we're more romantic now, but we also can receive romantic and sexual pressures from other people. So maybe the people are like, oh, I'm gonna go apply pressure or whatever. This probably will be the day. This probably will be the day that they feel like they want to do all of that with you. Now, if that person is very creepy and annoying, then you need to prepare yourself, because it's probably going to be on the 14th. We also can get money complications, because Lilith can create complicated circumstances. So there can be complications in love, complications with money, controversy in art. So people they make music, they make paintings or whatever that's just very odd, or people don't agree with it. People see it as taboo. We also can see controversies with how people make money, controversies in all matters of things that deal with relating to people. Maybe people want to relate with you in a very obscene way and you're not interested. Overall, people are trying to outsmart your senses. So maybe we see optical illusions. So people put something in front of you, and what is in front of you isn't what it actually is. It's something far more different. Okay. Good luck, everyone. Try to have a peaceful week. If you are not sure about anyone's behavior, please take your time this week and try to settle of what is good, what is bad. How do you feel about anything in certain forms of disillusionment? Now, next we'll be working on the Jupiter in Cancer video, which will be discussing Jupiter changing signs, and it'll be in there for a year. So we should see how the planet of luck will impact us for a year. And I also will be working on the full moon in Sag, which will be on the 11th. And funny enough, Jupiter in Cancer will be also moving around that time too. But we'll be discussing Jupiter in Sag, which will be around the 11th. And what I see for that is overall gender warring. And I understand we have gender wars like nonstop, but for whatever reason, that day it really takes an uptick. We also can see an extreme level of moral decay, sicknesses, and infections. But we psychic though. More people are being more perceptive, more psychic. They're able to catch on things that aren't overtly said. So those will be the next 2 videos and audios that come out. Okay, you guys be safe and bye.